I'm Candice Reed. I serve as the Executive Vice President with Latitude, and I'm also an adjunct professor at the University of Tennessee College of Law, where I teach a class on thriving as a lawyer.
I'm Joe Turo. I'm partner of the Latitude Boston office.
Latitude is a legal services company that works with attorneys and legal departments across the country. We place highly experienced attorneys into high-end, customized contract engagements with large and small legal departments as well as law firms across the country.
Candice, attorney well-being is a phrase we hear a lot about these days, and I know it's a topic that you speak about frequently. The big question I have is, what is attorney well-being?
Sure, that's a great question, Joe. So let's make sure that we're all using the same vocabulary and meaning the same thing with the vocabulary that we're using. So when we talk about well-being, we are generally talking about feeling good, feeling engaged, a sense of growth, a connection to others as well as to something bigger than ourselves, perhaps a larger community or even on a spiritual level across multiple domains in our life. So we're feeling that type of thriving in work, as well as at home or in our personal relationships, within our community groups. That is what we're talking about with well-being. And it's not a destination, right? It's not some place that you get to and then you're finally there and you just stop and watch the leaves on the tree sway back and forth as you just pleasantly sit in your well-being paradise. It is dynamic, and this is a constant growth or process that we're talking about when we look at well-being. I will often use the example of a number line, and thriving or well-being is being at a 7, 8, 9, 10 on that 1 to 10 scale or number line. Joe, I know that up until recently, when you launched Latitude's Boston office, that you were practicing in-house for over 20 years. So I'm going to throw the question back to you and ask you what well-being means to you, and also why you think it's an important topic, not just for attorneys, but for in-house counsel specifically.
Recently, I saw a post on LinkedIn, which was a work email with the following closing line: "My working hours may not be your working hours. Please do not feel obligated to reply outside of your normal work schedule." And as a practicing in-house lawyer for many years, I took a step back. I was very surprised to see that. And I thought quickly and couldn't come up with one example of my past career where I actually heard a request like that. And to me, I think that sums up pretty well the plight of the in-house lawyer. We're always in need, in demand. It doesn't occur to people that generally interact with us on a day-to-day basis that we may have other things on our plate, or that we may have may need some downtime to have our sanity and just to decompress. And when good lawyers see a request come in, their first thought is, the clock is ticking. I need to find a solution or an answer as quickly as possible, get back to my client, and then go on about with my business. So as an in-house lawyer, I can tell you, I never really thought too much about how I was handling things or my well-being. I was always focused on getting the job done, getting back to the client, finding answers, and trying to fix problems. So I can honestly say I didn't give that much thought to attorney well-being.
Interesting to me that email had such an impression on you, because I do think that we have normalized being available 24/7 as lawyers. And for many of us, that is our client's expectation, right? Whether we're in-house or working with clients, multiple clients. So I suspect that your reaction, or what you've just described as your recent experience, isn't that uncommon to many attorneys and many in-house counsel.
That's a great point. One of the things I've been thinking about recently is the unique role lawyers have in an organization. we're generally relied upon constantly. We're the people come to for problems, to get advice, or to be the calm in a chaotic situation. So when a business colleague gives us a question or brings an issue to us, from their standpoint, they're done with it, and they've now given it to legal, and it's now legal's problem. And then when you think about it from the standpoint of an in-house counsel, we're collecting all these issues and all these problems that we have to sort out. And even though they may be the organization's problem, they're also on our desk or on our plate, and we know we have to address them. So in addition to doing all this work to try to find solutions, we also have to handle the stress, because that is there as well. And I think, we fix the problem, we move on, but that stress keeps on building and building. And I would say it's only relatively recently, even in the most progressive organizations, that people have really started to think a little bit more about, how are people doing in this time? The last few years, especially with working from home, being remote, having days seem longer and longer in terms of hours. So I think it's a really great issue to be talking about. And one of the questions I have is, what can a lawyer do to achieve the status of well-being, or to be in a better position to thrive in the role that they currently have?
One thing that we're seeing, Joe, is that over the last 2 years, as we've started working remotely or among dispersed teams, is that we're actually working more, that we're spending more hours on the job, and that continues to amp up the stress and negatively impact our well-being. And so one of the things that we can start to do right away is to be more mindful or notice when good things happen. They don't have to be big things. I'm talking about the simple positive things that go on throughout our day that we often just take for granted.
I started practicing many years ago. One of the things I never did was take time to just stop and take a breath, because I was so busy and the work just seemingly was piling up. So I never took breaks to go for a walk or to go out for lunch. I generally just go get it and bring it back and eat at my desk. And I think the accumulation of that over months and even years takes its toll. And I think one thing that I've learned as I've gone through this profession to become a senior lawyer is just the simple thing of getting up away from your desk and taking a walk, going outside, blowing off some steam, taking a deep breath, and just, again, decompressing and getting away for a little while. Just those few minutes, honestly, make such a difference. You're never too busy to not be able to take just a little bit of time to reset. A lot of lawyers listening to this are managing attorneys or senior in-house counsel. So in addition to their own workload and stress, they also have to be thinking about their teams, which, having been through it, can also add to the stress. What techniques or tools can you offer managing attorneys or counsel to try to lower the stress level and foster well-being for their teams?
One reason I'm really excited for the webinar we're going to be hosting on May 10th, because we'll have an esteemed panel of both in-house counsel and well-being experts who are going to talk about some of the things, some of the strategies, some of the programs that they've implemented within their own teams, within their own companies that have been successful, and maybe some that haven't. So we will hear what's worked, what hasn't, and maybe be presented with some programs or strategies that we can implement within our own team. So that's one of the pieces of the conversation that I'm really excited about for May 10th.